What's up, alligators? Today is day 20 of Lent, so we are officially halfway through. Posting daily is definitely proving to be a little bit of a challenge, but thanks to all of you, I definitely have enough topics to cover for the rest of Lent. Today I'm going to be addressing a comment by Bernadette stating, "Can you please talk about domestic violence in homes where fathers abuse the mother and children? How do we support these people without hurting them? Abuse hotlines are good, but sometimes people just can't report given the circumstances. How do we help them as Christians?" I feel like this topic is rarely brought up in churches, which is sad, and also among the Christian community and YouTube and whatnot. Well, Bernadette, today is your lucky day because I will be talking all about this, and you are totally right that it is not talked about enough in the Catholic community. So we're going to get right to it. Before we can identify how to help people experiencing domestic violence, understanding what domestic violence is important. The United States Conference of Catholic Bishops says, "Domestic violence is any kind of behavior that a person uses to control an intimate partner through fear and intimidation. It includes physical, sexual, psychological, verbal, and economic abuse. Some examples of domestic abuse include battering, name-calling and insults, threats to kill or harm one's partner or children, destruction of property, marital rape, and forced sterilization or abortion." Granted, that's a limited list of what domestic violence encapsulates. It gives us a starting point of realizing that it's beyond hitting your spouse. Since about 85% of the abusers are the men in the relationship, I'm going to be focusing the pronouns in this video as he is the abuser and she is the victim. That's not to say that that's always the case. Personally, I grew up in a home that had quite a bit of emotional abuse going on, both to myself and my siblings, and my parents fought incessantly in a way that wasn't healthy. So I can speak about this from a first-hand experience of how I wish others would have helped me. Starting off, I wish that I would have known what a healthy relationship looked like. When the abuse is in the family, it's fairly easy for the abuser to hide that the abuse is going on. They've mastered the skill of acting perfectly normal and happy in public, and behind closed doors is when the abusive behavior comes out. That phrase, "the sins of the father are the sins of the son," is very applicable here. Anyone who exhibits this abusive behavior has likely learned it from another source. If somebody comes to you and tells you that something is going on, first and foremost, do not question them. I can guarantee that it has taken everything within them to open up to another person about the abuse that's occurring at home. Asking them something like, "Are you sure it's really that bad?" makes them second guess themselves, which is the last thing they need to be doing. The number one thing that you can do is believe them. Alongside not questioning her, it's also very important to reinforce the fact that it is not her fault. Any type of statement that states, "look at what you made me do," is not only manipulative, but downright outrageous. To not take responsibility for our own reactions to our own emotions is a huge sign of immaturity. Taylor Swift's song, "Look What You Made Me Do," drives me crazy because it's that victimization that downplays it for every woman whose fault is not hers. Every situation is different. So as much as I wish there was a cookie-cutter approach to how to handle somebody who would come to me with domestic violence, the three main goals that should always be held at the forefront of the mind are safety for the victim and children, accountability for the abuser, and then access to healing the relationship or mourning it if it's one that needs to end. At the end of the day, it's up to her whether or not she's going to leave the house. The overall mantra of my life, though, is meeting people where they are. All we can do is support and love her, answer her phone calls when she calls, have a couch available for her to sleep on if she needs it, and pray for her. I know praying seems superfluous, but the Lord hears the prayers of the faithful. There are even scientific studies on the power of positive thinking. So simply offering that intercession and perhaps asking another saint to intercede on behalf of our victim is priceless. If you yourself are in a situation where you do not feel safe, whether that's spiritually, emotionally, sexually, any way, you are not alone. And there are resources. Finding a solid priest or a solid counselor. I myself found a priest who was a licensed psychologist and utilized him as my spiritual director. It's never too late to start counseling. Even if the husband is unwilling to go, if the woman is able, I would highly recommend finding someone in your area. A book I would recommend for women who are being abused is Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. It helps explain in a very easy to understand way how codependence develops, how to process it, and how to get ourselves out of a situation where we are being codependent. If anybody tries to misconstrue scripture to state that what they're doing is justified, they are wrong. And it is not something that you have to tolerate. Yes, we are called to forgiveness, but forgiveness is not permission to continue to keep hurting me. If there are children in the house especially, we have a duty to protect our children. If there is any form of domestic violence going on, it needs to be addressed, no matter how minor. Any act of violence against another person violates the inherent dignity, worth, and love that we are all created to be a part of. So I suppose that would be the one other pointer I could give. If you see them in person, with their permission, reinforce positive physical contact. A genuine hug, a hand on the shoulder or knee, any form of physical contact that is positive. They say it takes 10 positive interactions to negate one negative. As Christ's lights in the world, we're simply called to help enforce those positive interactions. It's impossible to know who is being abused and who isn't. So smiling at the person you're passing in the grocery store, complimenting somebody's earrings, anything that we can do to help foster and promote a loving and caring world is absolutely the best thing that we could do in any situation. So Bernadette, I hope that answers your question. And yes, this does need to be talked about more because these women are not alone. And having that simple knowledge can be so empowering to finally step forward and ask for the help that we're so desperately longing for. God bless you. Thank you for your questions, and we will see you later, alligators.